Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Scaryish.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz, and
Hello.
we are here to talk to you guys about some interesting topics.
Yes, we are. I am pretty excited for this evening. Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering The Legend of the Dog Boy.
I am going to be covering a ghost ship. I haven't exactly figured out how I'm going to title this, so by now that you've already seen the episode, you know how I title it, but I'm covering a ghost ship, so I'll get there. You probably already know, like, whatever clever, catchy name I came up with after the edit.
Okay.
Very,
Not
very
the name
excited.
of the ship?
I mean, it might be, but the name of the ship is very unrecognizable, and I want to come up with something catchy because I think it's a really, really good story.
Okay, interesting.
So,
Cool.
Fun stuff. I thought we already talked about the dog boy, or is this just a different person entirely?
This is like something totally different. I don't know. I had never seen a dog boy thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
The one where the guy was like walking on the side of the road and people used to like stop and like
No.
give him beer and
Yeah,
stuff like
no, not that
Who
one.
was that?
Isn't that like No Face Charlie or something? Yeah.
Yes, you're right. That was No Face Charlie. Okay, cool. So don't want to get my urban legends mixed up. So I'm very excited for this episode. It is very late as we're recording right now, so we're a little bit loopy, but I feel like that makes for the best episodes. You all seem to be very entertained when
We'll
our brains
see.
are melting. So we'll see how this turns out, but I am excited. It is February, so we're past January Patreon push.
But
So-
before we start, I would like to give a shout out to our Woo patrons, Michael and Connor, for helping make this happen.
Indeed. Thank you so much for donating, and at the level where we're going to give you a shout out the first episode of every month, because we do sincerely appreciate how much you invest into our success. It really does mean a whole lot to us. And yeah, we really couldn't do it without all you folks out there and all of your support. Before we get too mushy, because I know we ended last episode super mushy, let's just go ahead and...
My body's just mushy.
That's funny. So is mine. Remind everyone that if you want to watch the Storytime episodes, we do record them live, and we are recording them now on Tuesdays
Yes.
at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is the same day the episodes release. So Tuesdays are basically your Scaryish day nowadays, folks, and we hope you're okay with that. You can watch us at youtube.com/Scaryish or twitch.tv/ScariyishPodcast. If you have a story you'd like to have us read, we call those homegrown horrors. Robin, what are our homegrown horrors typically like?
Homegrown horrors are tales of paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, sometimes oddly coincidental things that are scary but funny at the same time. They're just tales that, well, not tales really. They're stories of experiences that you folks, your family, your friends have had, and you take the time out of your day to type it out and send it to us.
Yeah.
And we get to read it to everyone, so it's great.
Yeah, and they don't always have to be funny. They could just be scary, and they don't always have to be scary. They can be funny, or they can just be stories that you want to send to us. Whatever you'd like to share with us, and if you don't want them read on the podcast, just let us know, and we'll engage in a dialogue back and forth with you. We do get that. It is a safe place to share. So feel free to reach out to us at storytime@scaryish.com. That is our email address. Or go to scaryish.com and click on Contact Us. Scaryish.com is our website. If you click on Contact Us, it'll bring you to a form you can fill out. Or just hit us up on any of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. We'll repeat those at the end of the show in case you've already forgotten. So I think we can go ahead and dive right into the topics, and I believe you're going first.
Cool. All right, so I will get started. So I'd never heard of this urban legend before, and I thought that it was really strange okay, so I was kind of Googling, like, what do I want to do this week, right? So I Google urban legends or haunted houses or whatever topic I kind of want to go into. So I looked up some urban legends, and this one came up, and I thought it was really weird because I had just never heard of it before, right? And the most disturbing part about this one is that it's something that actually happened, is based off of a real person, a real family, and much like the story of the bodies buried in the mattress, it's tangible, it's real. There's reports of it. There's nude articles. No,
Those are interesting articles.
No, there are news articles on it, and apparently there's a story going around in Arkansas. Or Arkansas, because Adam decided that because Kansas was...
No, it's Arkansas.
Oh, it's Arkansas?
Yeah,
so
you
it
just call
should
it
be
Kansas.
Kansas?
Correct.
Oh, I see what you... Okay. Got it. I totally mixed those two up.
That's
cool.
the stand I have taken in 2020. Actually, it was a 2019 stand.
That Kansas is now Kansas?
Yeah, because I always used to say Arkansas to annoy Arkansas people, but then I found out when each state was founded and realized Arkansas came first. So it's like they just shortened the name and stole it. So now they're just Cansaw. But yeah, we don't have to regress back to that. Like, I've already had that rant, so we'll keep going.
All right. Even though it's just a rehash of the whole thing that just happened.
Exactly.
All right. So, in Arkansas, there's an old house that witnessed a lot of bad things. And in Claiborne County, there are no strangers to tales of ghosts and ghouls haunting the area. What are ghosts, really? But memories.
I hate you. We've been watching Haunting of Hill House for the 4th time with Robin's family, so that they can see it for the first time.
Yeah, it's been really fun, and for me, I'm like an Etch-a-Sketch, so watching it over again, I still get scared. And there's some parts where I know the scary parts are coming, so I'm like, it's gonna happen, you know?
I still can't believe Steve is Dario Naharis from Game of Thrones. Like, that shit just blows me away. He's a very good actor.
That's why he's always grumpy, though. He's like, man, I never got my Khaleesi.
That's true.
I just love The Haunting at Hill House. It's so good. Anyway, so back to the actual topic that we're supposed to be talking about. So, in Quitman, Arkansas, those that live in the area tell of a particular ghost or set of ghosts. And that is of the Bettis house and the dog boy. So the legend of the dog boy, it's a little convoluted. So there's one where it's like, tells of a huge 300-pound, half-man, half-beast with glowing animal eyes that glares out of the windows of 65 Mulberry Street, which is the address of the house. And it's known to chase people down the street, biting at their heels like a dog would.
Wow.
So, you mind yourself and walk a little quicker when you're walking down that street, I guess.
I find it so interesting that urban legends always have, like, multiple variations, because so many people wind up telling it starts to deviate.
Right. And then, obviously, there's the other one where, okay, maybe not obviously because I haven't gotten there yet. I know myself because I've read it. But it's like a little boy grows up a little strange, does bad things to animals, does experimental things to dogs, hence the name Dog Boy, and he gets, like, supernatural powers and stuff like that. I don't know.
Does he get bit by a radioactive dog, and then he can all of a sudden have the ability to lick his balls?
He's a teen wolf.
We definitely went different directions on that. You went teen wolf, I went ball lick.
Okay. All right. So, at one point, known as the Garrett House, which was built in 1890, so it has a really long history, it was home to the Jackson family. And Benjamin Jackson lived there with his wife until she died at the super young age of 28. Their son Joseph was born in 1898, He served in the First World War and then died when he was 21.
Wow.
So it's a lot of really early death for the Jacksons. And it's said that Benjamin's spirit is one of the spirits that inhabit what is known as the Bettis house now. Well, I don't know. When I was reading these articles, it said Jackson. So maybe it's the son, Joseph, that was actually the one. Because later on, there's like a World War I ghost. So maybe it is the son's ghost and not the dad's ghost. I don't know.
It's hard to keep track of family trees and which ghosts are which. Because you don't know. Ghosts might be able to change outfits and they just decide to, like, switch identities every now and then.
They're like, got it wrong. Okay, so lots of stories around this house stem from what happened to the Bettises. And what once was an urban legend of supernatural dark powers and experiments on dogs within the home, the dog boy actually existed and was kind of a dick.
Wow.
He's a pretty big douchebag. Floyd and Aileen Bettis moved into the house in the late 1940s or early 50s, and at the time they didn't have any children and didn't for a while until they had their son, Gerald Floyd Bettis, who was born in 1954. So after a few years, they're like finally having this kid. According to those that were around the family, Gerald just wasn't the easiest kid to handle. And as first-time parents, I'm sure they were just like, he's just a little difficult, you know? But
it's really hard to have like a gauge of how difficult a kid can be if they're your first kid.
Right, but everyone's saying that apparently Gerald was, quote, a brat and vicious and cruel, end quote.
The first part, I was like, all kids are brats. The vicious thing, yeah, a lot of kids are vicious and cruel. Yeah, kids are that too, so he just sounds like a kid to me.
He used to catch and collect cats and dogs, gaining the nickname Dog Boy. And he didn't catch them because he thought they were cute and cuddly and wanted to love on them or anything like that. He would torture the animals. And
okay, yeah, he is cruel and vicious. And
neighbors talk about the sounds that they would hear coming from the house. Like, it was horrible. This dude was just awful. Some say that Gerald even added on an addition to the house so that he could keep more animals, which I think is so over the top. Now, according to these neighbors and other people that interacted with their family, he wasn't the most popular kid in school.
I can't imagine why.
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of these stories of these people that do strange things, they're never the popular kid, you know?
Well, I mean, when you mutilate animals, it's really hard for you to connect to other kids that don't have, like, similar interests as you.
It's like, oh, you don't like to mutilate animals? What?
I also like stickball, kickball, and murdering small puppies.
What the fuck? Oh,
it's like,
man.
no one
says that. No. So, kids would treat him like crap, take things from him. On the other side of the coin, though, he was kind of a douche canoe where he would do things that normal kids just don't do, you know? So at a family reunion...
I can't imagine what. He seems so normal to this point.
At a family reunion that was held at Quitman City Hall, this kid would grab like a bunch of grapes, right? Like a bundle of grapes. He would lay on one of those chase lounges like a Roman fucking leader type person, rich person would do or whatever, and would eat these grapes in front of everyone like a dickhead. You know what I mean? Like,
that just seems like a power move. Like, I hate that this kid is such a monster towards animals because without that specific trait, he's not sounding too terrible. But that specific trait is so awful, it's hard to ignore it, you know?
I don't know how this guy did it, but he kept his parents, as he got older, he kept his parents pretty much prisoners in their own home. He kept them upstairs. He would feed them whenever he felt like it was time to feed them, you know? And his parents were on the older side.
Okay.
And it probably helped that this dude was like 6'4".
Yeah, I was going to say, he must be physically imposing in some way.
He was 6'4" and almost 300 pounds. So this guy was huge. And there are reports that at one point when he was a teenager, he beat up his own dad and tossed him out a second-story window.
Wow, holy shit.
This guy's like insane. Luckily, his dad was able to hang onto the ledge of the window until police arrived. So he survived that whole thing.
It's like that hang in there kitty poster.
Oh my God.
That's a lot more tragic.
His dad died in he died in 1981. So quite a while later, right? He lived a pretty long life. Some sources say that it was of natural causes, that he was sick, and that's how he died. Other people say that he got pushed down the stairs and broke his neck. And a lot of sources say that. But when I read those, I'm like, this is an urban legend site. It's saying that because they want to
sensationalize his
death. Yeah. So
it's really hard to pick through the fact and the fiction or like the actual details and the bullshit. That's one of the reasons why I don't like Ghost Adventures, because any bit of truth that's in those episodes is so overwhelmed by the theatricality and the nonsense that I sincerely just cannot watch it.
Yeah. What's real though and tangible is the fear that these people had. They were just so afraid of Gerald. And some neighbors claim that he was something other than simply human. Like, there were people that said his eyes seemed to glow at night. And I think that's just people being afraid of this huge dude, right. You know, and you don't know how to react to him. His own family was afraid of his violent behavior. One source said that at one point, an uncle of his came over to one of their neighbors' houses to borrow a gun because they were afraid that Gerald might snap at some point. So they're like, I need something in case something happens.
I need an anti-Gerald weapon. Do you have any silver bullets or crosses, perhaps?
Oh my God. In the 1980s, probably after Floyd died, Aileen broke her hip and had to get taken to the hospital. And Mary Hollibird, now a retired nurse, witnessed Gerald slapping his mother around at the time and heard him telling her, quote, I'm going to have you arrested if you tell anyone what I did, end quote.
Wow.
Like, what the and I'm sure it's his fault that she broke her hip, you know? It's just so, oh my God, this
Maybe
dude's
they were
insane.
arguing about the fact that he killed his dad.
Oh, maybe.
And then he hurt her and told her, like, if you tell anyone, like, I'll have you arrested.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
But this is a much older woman. This is an elderly woman in the hospital for a broken hip. Thankfully, Aileen was placed in adult protective services, which I did not know was a thing. I did not know that existed. But thankfully, she was able to get taken from that home and placed somewhere else other than with this abusive dude.
I'm very curious as to this adult protective services and when, like, the age starts where you can be taken away from someone for abuse.
Probably at the point when you really can't defend yourself.
I was going to say, is it like an elderly person or something like that?
Maybe. I'm sure it's like once you can't defend yourself anymore, or like she was in the hospital for a broken hip, you know, there's nothing she can do. So after his parents were no longer living in the home, he kind of did whatever he wanted. He did build a sunroom onto the back of the house, and some would say that it was to keep more animals, like earlier, while some people said it was just for all his plants and his marijuana. So he grew a bunch of stuff back there.
This dude's like a poster boy for not smoking weed.
He was arrested for abusing his mother and was put in jail in the late 1980s. So,
I feel like this guy's completely made up. Like, this is a 1980s commercial about how evil marijuana is. Like, if you smoke weed, you'll beat up your mother.
He died of a drug overdose in 1988 at 34 years old, so he really wasn't that old. He was your age.
Wow, yeah, that's not that old.
But if you think about it, it's like his parents were so much older than he was.
Right.
Like, the fact that his parents were so much older than him, and so it's just something that maybe he was annoyed with them because they were older than him or something.
It's a really weird thing to be annoyed with your parent for being older than you. Like, dying at 34, like, I can't even imagine that. I mean, I daydream about it all the time at work.
Shut the fuck up. You're so dumb.
He died very young, and he was a pretty awful person for the time he was alive.
Right,
so.
Yeah. You got any skeletons in your closet I need to know about?
I really don't.
So Aileen died in 1995, so 7 years after her son died. And they left the house to Reba Carter. And then the home was sold to Tony Weaver and his wife. And this is when the paranormal reports start to happen. So according to the Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research, or CASPER.
Wow. That's a good
Dude,
acronym.
I know.
That's
when I
a
saw
really
that,
good acronym.
I was like, you guys are fucking geniuses.
You guys are like the Shield of the paranormal world.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Shield where, was it Shield or was it one of the Avengers?
It's Iron Man 1.
It's Iron Man where he's like, it just seems like somebody really wanted us to be called
That's
Shield.
the show Agents of Shield.
Okay.
That's the first episode.
Yeah. I just thought that was so funny. Anyway, yes. So, Casper, so great. According to Karen Schillings, the founder of Casper, Mrs. Weaver would turn off all the lights before leaving the house to work a night shift, and then when she would get back, the lights would be on.
And she'd have a new mattress that unrolled on its own and inflated.
Oh my god, those are mattresses!
Sponsor us, please.
Oh yeah, sponsor us. I want one.
Right?
Send us one. Okay, so her husband was a truck driver, so he wasn't home all the time. He was obviously super busy doing the thing, making money to pay for this house, I'm sure. Living alone most of the time is already scary, so she's alone. She leaves the light off, goes to work her night shift, probably super miserable, comes back home, the lights are fucking on, and now she has to deal with the idea that it's either an intruder or someone straight up like squatting in her house and living there when she's not around. You know what I mean?
Or a ghost.
Or ghosts.
Tom Bodette, because he'll leave the light on for you.
Oh my god! Anyway, all these ideas are absolutely terrifying. It's understandable that she was scared, I would be scared too. And then more strange things started to happen. Supposedly, pennies would float down from upstairs, and they would stop and just clatter on the floor in front of her all at once. And that would freak me the fuck out because I hate pennies, JK, LOL.
I was going to say, it's just pennies that you're afraid of, not the whole levitation thing?
No, yeah, that just freaks me out. After 6 months of the strange occurrences, she was just like, super scared, didn't want to live there anymore. She was outie. Tony Weaver also experienced strange things himself. One day, while he was working on the house, he saw a man looking through the foyer, or foyer, however you guys want to say it. I always say foyer. I know so many people say foyer. Even on the stupid house flipping shows, they call it foyer. I don't know. But, so, looking through the foyer into the living room, he looked like a World War I soldier, complete with the helmet and everything. To Weaver, he looked totally real, like an actual person. And then the soldier walked into the living room, and Weaver ran after him, but there was nobody there. So it's so strange. In 2003, Quentin and Stephanie White, who are related to the Weavers, lived in the home and claimed that strange things happened on a regular basis. One of the things was that the toilet would flush on its own, which to me is like...
a polite ghost.
No, but it's like I've had toilets where they wouldn't stop running, or they'd randomly just start running through the night, where you would just hear the water start running.
Right.
I've
never had one flush on its own, though. That's really bizarre.
But maybe that's what they're confusing the flushing with. It could be, maybe. I don't know. I'm just trying to give this thing excuses. Maybe it's not a ghost. But it's just something that would be a strange thing for a ghost to do, just to flush your toilet. Let me raise your water bill real quick, just for fun.
Let me get rid of this ghost dookie. Sorry about
Ghost dookie? Okay. Anyway, so one day, Quentin was working on the home when he heard a crash from the second floor. And when he went to find out what it could have possibly been, he found that the 2x4s that he'd laid in a pile on the floor were all stacked up and standing straight up. So he's like, what the fuck?
That's weird.
They only managed to live there a couple months. They didn't stay very long.
See, that makes me believe it more, because no normal human with the option of leaving would stick around bizarre paranormal activity that seems scary or threatening or just terrifying in, like, the general sense.
Weaver still owned the home, and they kept trying to sell it. And during a period when he couldn't sell it, there was an instance where he left a pair of brand new sunglasses and some prescription meds that he just got, put them on a table, and he was just frustrated. And he exclaimed in, like, resentment, super pissed off, like, quote, "These darn spooks, I'm tired of taking care of this place," end quote. And according to Weaver, it must have angered someone or something in the house, because his brand new sunglasses and meds were gone pretty soon after that.
That just seems like an ordinary thief, like drugged and free sunglasses.
Yeah, but that makes me think maybe there is a squatter living in the walls or something, Supposedly, just entering the home has given people chills or caused their hair to stand on end. While showing the home, a woman and her quote-unquote sensitive daughter were walking through the home. And when they got to the stairs, the daughter stopped at the stairs and said that she felt very sad. Like there was just some sadness coming off of those stairs.
Because that's where the guy's dad died.
Well, maybe if he pushed him down the stairs and he broke his neck.
Oh, I thought you said he fell down the stairs and he broke his neck.
No.
So regardless, he went down the stairs and broke his neck.
He died of natural causes. He died of being sick. But people say that he was pushed down the stairs and broke his neck. Keep it together, man.
I'm going with the people's explanation on this. I'm a man of the people, and clearly they know what they're talking about.
All right, so others have witnessed strange things like a recliner that flipped back on its own and stayed flipped back the entire time that they walked through the house. That would have had me just been like, nope, I'm out. Thanks. Bye, Felicia's. You know what I mean? Oh, my God.
It would have gone from like, I want to buy this house to live in to maybe I'll make this a haunted Airbnb or something like that.
someone brought their dog to the house and it refused to go inside, which to me is like, all right, that's a bad sign. If my dog doesn't want to go in there, I am not even going to try. That's awful. Ed Munnerlin worked on remodeling the home for a time and worked mostly at night. And he chose to work at night because people would come by and want to check out the haunted house in the morning. So he's like, I'm going to do my work at night so I don't get bothered.
You know what'll really make this place look less haunted is if I do all my work in the dead of night as if I'm hiding a body.
While working in the home, he felt like someone was always watching him. And he also claimed to have seen spirits several times. He claimed that sometimes when he would pull into the driveway at night, he would see a man looking down at him in a brown jacket and bow tie, kind of like he was from a completely different era. And from like the second story window, it would be looking down at the driveway, whatever. He claimed to have seen the ghost of Gerald multiple times in the sunroom/house edition. And just imagine running into this looming, tall, huge, intimidating ghost, right? And that's just big ol' nope for me. I don't know why this guy would keep coming back to this place if he kept seeing weird shit, you know?
And having that guy the ghost of a guy who murdered dogs is like all the reason I need to have a dog not go in there. Like, the dog would be like, fuck that. Like, I'm not going in there. I don't care.
At one point, this dude saw Gerald's ghost, like, look at him, like, straight in the face and then walk through a wall, you know? So that's, to me, it's just like, nope, ghosts, get out of here. Casper, the investigators, did find a few disconcerting things while they investigated the place. They did it multiple occasions. So they found a couple different things. There's one where they got a really good video of something, but then the video went missing. So I was like, do I trust the fact that this video went missing? They couldn't find the file. I don't know. To me, it was like...
They had it in the safest place, on the table next to their pills and sunglasses.
Oh, God. Okay, so I think a lot of strange things that originated from the upstairs, like the pennies and the dude looking out from the window, it's all because of what Gerald did to his parents, you know, locking them up there like that. It's like that stupid movie, and I know I bring it up all the time, but it's just like an echo of what happened, you know? And it's just, they spent so much time there that it kind of became its own entity. And now that they're gone, they spent so much time locked up in there. And I bet they felt all this emotion, and it's just...
trauma.
Yeah, all this trauma being trapped up there. And, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's crazy.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of the movie Unbreakable, because, like, I don't know if you've ever seen Unbreakable. It's this old M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's
Bruce
definitely
Willis?
Yeah, it's gotten more popular because they made
Glass,
like, unofficial sequels and then an official sequel to it. But yeah, it's like they have the guy who does the home invasion thing where he takes over the house and just like keeps everyone trapped in fear because he's just bigger than them. He doesn't use a weapon. He just like takes over the home, and that's definitely what that totally reminded me of. So.
Nice.
Yeah, a little bit terrifying. It was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. So
it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be.
Very true crime oriented.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So good work. I'm proud of you. So before we move on into my topic, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Meep, meep, mama.
Wow. Your noises are not consistent whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my topic for this evening. And I got to say, this week, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to cover. It's been a crazy week on account of the fact that I worked on Saturday, and then we got to watch the big game on Sunday, because you're not allowed to say the actual name of the game. And I don't know if we'd get in trouble for that. I don't know if we're big enough for that, but I just prefer to avoid it at this point.
It's a pretty big enterprise there.
Yeah, so I felt like I blinked and I was back at work from Friday to Monday, and that's just how I still feel. I feel like I blinked once I got home, and then I was in this office like making sure to record and making sure to get this script written. So one thing that did develop over the previous week is Spooky Mom, who is typically a person of sophistication and class, has developed quite the addiction.
Call out her addiction.
Yeah, to a reality TV show known as Below Deck.
It's funny because we're also just got dragged into this trash television.
Secondhand addiction is what I feel like it is.
Secondhand addiction. It's bad. Okay, so it's on the TV. You just sit down, take a break after coming home from work or from school or whatever, and then you're like, well, what's going to happen next?
It's like, this show is dumb. And then the next thing you know, you're sitting there...
Play the next episode.
just saying stuff like, oh, Cat is such a whore.
Oh my God. It's so addicting. It's insane. Oh man, God.
It's a pretty solid garbage TV show. Like, it's just about a crew of people aboard a giant yacht that gets chartered by super rich people. And, like, with that, I decided while I was home today, waiting for Robin to get home to write my script.
Your topic was going to be boats, boats, boats.
Exactly. I decided that I wanted to cover a nautical, Scaryish topic. And I think I found just the thing. And I would like to reiterate that it's scary-ish. This isn't one of my scarier topics. It is definitely one of my more interesting topics that I think I've ever covered.
Well,
we'll let you be the judge.
If nautical nonsense is something you wish. Oh my God, you don't know what that means?
No, I have no idea what you're saying
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Oh my God, how do I not know a quote of a show I repeatedly say I've never watched? I hate you so much.
You know all the quotes from Twilight.
I don't know all the quotes. I get yelled at for not knowing a quote when I've only ever watched that in the background, too.
We were watching Haunting at Hill House, and one of the scenes...
Floridians! I hate you.
One of the scenes is, like, in Jacksonville. And my aunt goes, what's in Jacksonville? And I go, Floridians. And Adam's like, I don't get it.
They both turned and looked at me like, do you get it? Do you get it? I don't go out of my way to say I don't get it, because I don't want to know. But I get tested all the time. Anyway, strap in, folks. I'm going to tell you the tale of the ghost ship known as, and I'm going to try and say this correctly, the Teignmouth Electron.
Yo, that name is sick.
Teignmouth is spelled Teignmouth. So it sounds like Teignmouth, but it is from the UK. So I'm going to go with Teignmouth because I feel like Sam will yell at me less if I say it that way. So to start this story... Picture in your mind's eye a boat floating in the middle of the ocean, all right? It's a nice day, slight waves, a bright sun beating down on a 41-foot trimaran. And just so you know, a trimaran, as the beginning of the name would suggest, is a boat with essentially 3 hulls, hence tri. It's like you have your main boat and then 2 small, thin hulls to either side of the main hull, typically connected to the main boat by like arms. It almost looks like a normal sailboat. We have your sailboat and your sail with 2 canoes on the side of it.
Is that the one
attached with like arms that are extended out to the sides?
Is that the one that kind of has the net in the middle?
I shall show you.
Okay.
Because I made sure to keep my pictures up so that you could confirm whether or not I provided a good, accurate description of what that looks like.
Whoa, that thing looks cool.
Some of them are very, very pretty. I won't lie. This is definitely a story that is totally inspired by Below Deck because it's about folks that had a lot of money that they didn't know what to do with, but not all of them. But I'm showing Robin a bunch of different types of
imagine like a
trimarans.
It's like
right
a canoe. So you see a canoe. The canoe has one arm on one side, right? So this trimaran just has an extra arm on the other side. The
trimaran is like if you take the canoe with the arm and you took that arm and put it up on an actual sailboat, and then you went and got another one for the other side and put it up on the actual sailboat so that the sailboat sits in the middle and the 2 canoes are on the sides of it. So those are called floats. They're called a lot of different things, but they're mainly called floats.
Okay.
And it's supposed to provide additional support so that your ship doesn't rock back and forth, but it's also just like a way of having your ship sail faster, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a boat guy. However, this story is all about boats.
Boats. Oh
you're picturing a 41-foot trimaran in the middle of the ocean on a beautiful day. So back to your mind's eye picturing this, okay? It's early sun, too. It's not like midday sun. It's 8 a.m. In fact, if you want a date, it's July 10th. So it's nice and toasty warm right now. The year is 1969. So if you're picturing this like it's a movie, in the bottom right, like you'd see the like letters fade in.
Oh my
The number says 1969. And then entering that same shot in the distance of the movie screen that is your mind's eye right now, there's another boat that's approaching in the distance. That boat is named the Royal Mail ship known as the Picardy, Picardy. And the Picardy is a big ship, like a couple of 100 feet long, nothing like the trimaran floating in the middle of the ocean. In fact, they would look completely different in shape and size and style. I will now show Robin a picture of that boat.
I love how many times you're going to say the word boat. That's a huge boat.
Yeah, it's a very big boat, several hundred feet long, very tall, almost looks like a battleship. But it was for delivering mail. Like, sincerely, that's what it was for. Aboard the Picardy was Captain Richard Box, known to his friends, I'm sure, as Dick Box.
Shut up! Oh my god!
It's his real name. Dick did what boats do for each other when they see themselves in the open ocean. He blew his foghorn 3 times, which is essentially a way of asking another boat that looks like it may be in distress.
You okay, bro?
Yo, dog. You good? It's just how you communicate it via foghorn on the nautical spectrum. So here Dick Box is standing there, staring at this boat, waiting for a response, and nothing comes. So a few sailors were ordered by Dick Box to take a smaller boat off of this one, the Picardy, to check on this random boat in the middle of the ocean and see what's going on. Because at this point, it sincerely seems like it is a ghost ship. So this small crew of sailors approach the boat, and on the side of the hull, it reads, the Teignmouth Electron. They board the ship, and they search around. The ship itself is in general disrepair. It's not looking great, but it's not completely trashed. It's not in good shape, but it looks like someone was living on the ship. There's books, there's a radio, there's a logbook that will let them know what happened on the boat, and a very odd, very thick document that seems to be handwritten that is very, very long. One of these sailors searching through the boat picks it up and begins to read. This picture that I'm painting for you is kind of fabricated. It was discovered by this guy with this ship, and this is the name of the ship, but I'm trying to give your mind characters so that you can kind of see this as a movie as it plays out. So this is something that was discovered. All those items were discovered on the boat, and as this person would flip open this 2,500 word document, you can go ahead and
it's
see
only
this.
Like 5 pages, right?
25,000 word document.
I was going to say, like, one of my scripts is already like 1,800 words.
Yeah, this one I have is 7 pages and it's 4,000 words. So extrapolate that times 5. That's still short.
Like 20 sheets.
20 sheets? No, like 7 times 5 is 40.
Oh,
I think 35. Whatever. I'm fucking tired.
Oh, fuck.
You just ruined this whole image. So you
just...
see this guy flipping through this document, and I'll let the image get wavy. You can do that whole, like, I literally wrote doodly-doo effect, and I knew you would do it. We're flashing back now. It used to be 1969. Now, in the bottom right, 1968 appears in your mind's eye theater. A newspaper by the name of the Sunday Times, based out of London, is sponsoring an event that has slowly gained the attention of quite a few people. It is what is known as the Golden Globe Race, a non-stop, single-handed, round-the-world yacht race. Yes.
Do they still do that?
They do. They actually redid this race in 2018.
Shut up.
But it's single-handed. You're not allowed to stop anywhere. If you do, you're disqualified.
What?
And what it comes down to is who can race around the world on a yacht by themselves the fastest. Now, the rules of this were pretty simple.
Eat?
I mean, you have to take your stuff with you or catch stuff. So you either take provisions to last you for a year, or you need to catch things. You are allowed to start your journey at any point between June 1st and October 31st. That's a really big window. The 1st of the 6th month of the year to the 31st of the 10th month, October 31st, Halloween, and also, forever more important, Robin's birthday.
Woo woo.
You'd have to keep a detailed log of your journey, and obviously your time would be measured by the point in which you left England to the time in which you returned to England, and you would also take a radio with you to radio your location so they could track your progress. You had to travel around the world by way of the Great Capes, which means you'd sail from England down through the Atlantic, through the North Atlantic, through the South Atlantic, you get to the Southern Ocean, and then you'd sail around the world at the bottom of it, passing by the tips of all of the continents, Africa, Australia, and South America.
All right.
Once you pass South America, just take a left, head back up, come back to England. That was the route you were supposed to take. You could plot your route with some general differences than other folks.
But you can't stop anywhere.
But you're not allowed to stop. It's a non-stop race. So
how do they know? How can they catch you?
Well, I mean, there are people at the ports where if they see you're docked and they report you, you're fucked, basically. So you don't want to risk it, but...
Can it be like license plates where you just take off the license plate, swap it?
I mean, you could just get on a radio and report that, like, the boat with the name painted on the side of it has docked in your port. And people knew about this race. Like, it was very popular. The prize for this race around the world was £5,000, which, adjusted for inflation, today would equal £74,611. What is that in dollars, my fellow Americans? That would be $96,902.
Wow.
So almost $97,000, roughly $100,000 in currency for the American people. And for the people over there in the UK, almost $75,000 for racing around the world. The race picked up 9 contestants. And while I could name them all, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I mean, we've been there through that one Dyatlov Pass or whatever where I tried to say everyone's name. Nope.
Not going to do
again.
that. I'm going to focus on 4 of them. Number 1, Robin Knox Johnston, who was British, who was sailing the Swahili. Number 2, Bernard Montessier, who was French, sailing Joshua. Number 3, Nigel Tetley. Oi! British. That's not actually part of his name. I just wanted to say it. He was sailing the Victress.
Just because his name's Nigel?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Just felt right. And number 4, Donald Crowhurst, who was British, sailing, you guessed it, the Teignmouth Electron. So clearly, Donald is our main character. And at this point, you're probably thinking, what kind of a stupid fucking name is the Teignmouth Electron? I sincerely didn't think Robin would like it that much.
That name is awesome.
But Donald Crow...
It's like naming your boat fucking Megatron.
Is it? What? Is it really?
Hello? That's
Electron
so cool.
and Megatron are 2 very different things, Robin. Thank you very much.
Whatever.
Anyways... Donald Crowhurst would set sail from the town that assisted in the building of his ship and helped sponsor the ship to be created. That town was none other than Teignmouth. And Donald owned a company called Electron Altastation. So they just combine Electron with the name of the town. That's where it comes from. I'm going to henceforth refer to the ship as Electron because that is what it's referred to quite frequently in all of the things I have read about it. So like I said, Donald is the main character of our story. Now I'd like you to imagine him standing on a dock talking about this race, which is really exciting. And these 3 other characters that I've introduced, Robin, Bernard, and Nigel, standing around him as well. And Robin and Nigel are friendly enough. They're encouraging. It's going to be sporting, to say the least. But then there's Bernard, who's kind of a dickhead. He would be the one that would tell Donald he's not going to make it and that he was going to win and walk off, probably scoffing the whole time.
While you were writing all this stuff out, you just created these personalities for these people?
It was just kind of like in my mind's eye, and I was also kind of feeling like Cool Runnings-ish on this.
Oh my F.
So if you see anything mirrored there, that's where my brain was. But just picture this, because I really think that this will really carry you through this story. And this story is true, by the way. Like, these are the actual people. Like, maybe the events I'm setting up here and the scenes that are playing out aren't exactly what happens, but the dates and the big events are 100% real. So Donald is standing there at the dock, and he is pretty down on his luck. His business was failing. This is true. I'm not saying that. He had a wife and 4 children to support, and things were not looking good. Donald, when he was a youngster, was quite a rapscallion. He joined the Royal Air Force in 1947, but he was kicked out very quickly for disciplinary problems. He had a problem with authority, or he was just a general dickhead. Which is funny because he was in, the armed forces. General dickhead. He tried the British Army after that.
How I Met Your Mother episode?
Right, I knew you'd realize that. He tried the British Army, and it was the same story. He was kicked out again, given the boot. He eventually was able to form his own business around electronics, something he had a passion for. But as of 1968, things were rough. And Donald thought, maybe I'll just sail around the world and win us some money. So they get the boat built in 4 months, and they take it for a test run. During this test run, there are some issues, you could say. Primarily that the vessel itself topped out at 12 knots, which is just under 14 miles an hour. Most importantly, at that speed, the vibrations from sailing were so violent that screws began falling out of the steering apparatus. They were just being shaken so violently by the friction of this because it was basically just not assembled well. It didn't have a lot of money to be put into it. It was built very quickly, and it wasn't of the highest craftsmanship. But there was no more money left, and the deadline was fast approaching when he would have to set sail. So now I'd like you to just picture a black background. Nothing in your mind's eye but black. And then the date appears in white letters, June 1st, 1968. Now make the font Comic Sans.
Why Comic Sans?
I put, oh no, what have I done?
That's like
I was
the
drunk
worst.
on power. I'm a monster.
Oh my god.
Switch it to Times New Roman. That's acceptable. So you can just fade into the scene now. One boat is leaving the dock. June 1st, the first day you can leave. But it's not one of our 4 characters. It's someone else. It's not Donald. The 4 are standing there, seeing him leave, and they agree he's not going to make it the whole way. They all look at each other, and they return to their preparations.
Okay.
The 4 of them go 4 separate directions, which is difficult to do when there's 4 people. Donald probably walks off the dock and splashes into the water. Little comic relief for you for the serious events to come.
Oh my goodness, okay.
I mean, obviously that didn't exactly happen, but hey, it's my topic. I'll say what I want. Black screen again. White lettering. This time the date, June 14th, 1968. June 14th is also my friend Lee's birthday. Shit. That is probably written in white letters on your black screen. So just stop transcribing. Okay, so cut to the dock.
You're so ridiculous.
We see Robin Knox Johnston waving from the deck of the Swahili at his 3 competitors watching him depart. Bernard probably twists his mustache and vows he shall defeat him as he storms off, because Bernard has a mustache now for some reason. And Nigel and Donald probably look at each other and say, like, when did he have time to grow that? Like, I don't know, but it looks good. It's rather menacing, I'd say. So, yeah.
I mean, it's no Mobius, but...
Wow. Then the 3 of them depart. Donald walks in the opposite direction of the dock this time. He's not falling off. And oops, he trips and falls in the puddle. Just stacking on the comic relief. So,
are bad things
hope
really
you
about
are
to
going
happen?
to enjoy it. Yes, things are about to get a little
no.
twisted. Black screen. The new date, August 22nd, 1968. This time, Bernard sets sail, twisting his now even longer mustache and cackling madly as he departs. Black screen. September 16th, 1968. Nigel Tetley sets sail, waving with a shrug at Donald, who stands alone on the dock. Our 4 characters, 3 of them have departed. Our main character is the only one who has yet to set sail. It is September 16th, and time is running out. Donald looks at his boat, knowing there is a long way to go before he can set sail. This is true. All these dates are accurate. This is when they all departed. Like I said, they have until Halloween, Robin's birthday, to depart. Slow fade to black. Smashing noise, white letters, all caps, October 31st, 1968, Halloween, in parentheses, Robin's birthday, dash, more important. Donald Crowhurst
God.
boards the Teignmouth Electron and sets sail.
All right.
So he leaves
So he
the
makes
last
it by the-
possible
okay.
day you can possibly leave. I'd like to stop to point out that it doesn't matter who gets there first. What matters is the shortest amount of time from setting sail to returning. So because they have this big window, someone can show back up first, but if you complete your journey faster, you win. So that's why they gave him this big-ass window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's leaving the last possible day you can leave. Upon departure, he still has a few things on his ship he needs to fix to ensure he'll be able to make it through the trip. He's hoping during these first few weeks he can make the proper adjustments that will allow him to survive the journey. And I do mean survive. The likelihood that his ship would be pulled apart in the Southern Ocean was very likely. In fact, in his logs, he gave himself, quote, a 50-50 shot of surviving. He was basically gambling with his life to try and win his family some money.
I'll make it. Maybe. I don't know.
He's got both fingers crossed and both toes crossed, so he's really, really hoping. 3 days pass, and the Electron has a couple of problems. First, his radio was not working. He could not figure out what was wrong with it for the life of him, and it took him 4 days before he located the blown fuse that was causing the problem. The other thing he noticed 3 days in were that the vibrations from the journey had caused him to lose 2 screws in his steering apparatus already.
Did he bring a bunch of extras?
At this time, he opened his chest that has spare screws written on it to find that it was empty.
What?
He didn't take any with him. Don't know why when he tested the thing and knew that that was a problem. Someone had also mentioned he should have them welded, and he just kind of shrugged it off. The 5th day rolls around, and he realizes that the port, or left side float, was taking on water. And by taking on water, I mean it was basically filled with water, slowing down his progress. He tried to bail out this water. Go ahead.
I'm just like trying to imagine what this thing really looks like.
I mean, it looks very like what I've already shown you.
It doesn't look like it could fill up with water.
You don't think one of the floats could fill up with water if there's a hole in it?
Oh, there was a hole in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's taking on water. That's what that means. There is a structural integrity issue that's letting it leak.
How does he get the water out of it?
He goes over there, finds wherever he can that he can access it, because he does have access to it, and he's literally scooping the water out, trying to get it all out so he can try and get this thing repaired.
Okay.
There was a problem with that, though, because the seas were a little rough. The swells were 15 feet high, and every time he would bail water out, it just kept filling up. By the 13th day, November 13th, a leak had sprung in the main hull that flooded his engine compartment and his generator. So at this point, his vessel is nearly crippled. He's continuing to try and fix these problems and sail on. I would like you to now rewind this montage of nightmare sailing that I have just described and play it again in your brain with the song Sail by AWOL Nation playing in the background.
Jeez, come on.
Maybe some slow motion shots of waves just battering this poor dude as he's trying to bail out that float. Donald finished repairing the generator on November 16th and decided he needed to sit down and contemplate just what he was going to do. If he pulled into port, he was disqualified. If he went home, he was disqualified, but he wouldn't die. He'd just be dead broke and likely mocked for giving up so early. He wasn't the only contestant to leave on Halloween, by the way. There was an Italian man named Alex Carrazzo who did as well, and he had actually quit on November 14th.
He made it 2 weeks in, and...
2 weeks in, and this guy couldn't go any further. It's also important to note that 2 other contestants who had left in June had already thrown in the towel before Donald ever set sail. So 2 of them were already out. A third one was out. Robin, Bernard, and Nigel were still out there. So his 3 folks that I have already brought up to you are still sailing. But Donald had to acknowledge a hard truth. This ship was not capable of carrying him around the world. It just wasn't going to happen. So he radioed in that he was going to head to land and repair his ship. But along the way, he got an idea. And this idea made him change his mind. It was not a good one, mind you, but it was a big idea. So turning in would mean he had failed. And he was probably going to fail no matter what, but he really didn't want to die. So maybe he would just lag around in the Atlantic for a bit longer before turning in, because the longer he stayed out, it was like the better he had fared, right? How long, just how long did he think he could fuck around in the Atlantic before heading back in?
Was he allowed to have people come and bring him stuff?
No, he was not. And if he was careful about it, he decided that he could probably lag around in the Atlantic for quite a while. And that thought is what led him to the worst idea of his life. Donald Crowhurst decided he was going to lie his ass off. And it was brilliant if you're dumb. He would lag around in the southern Atlantic Ocean, so he'd sail just far enough away where he really wouldn't be noticed because he'd be in the southern hemisphere. He'd waste time and wait to hear that someone had won. Then he'd track the progress of the rest of the contestants and just head home, determined to come in last place, but he would claim the entire time that he had been sailing around the world and report fake coordinates.
What a douche nozzle.
So he could take credit having finished, and he thought that his publicist with a last place but having sailed around the world could work with that. He would need to doctor his logs and report steady but slow progress and radio that progress in whenever he needed to. It was just dumb enough to work. And he continued to radio in the location he was in as he headed down the Atlantic, and he was radioing in the problems he was still facing. In fact, his logs were for the most part right on the money until December 6th, and that's when the lies began. By December 21st, he reported a split of the skin of his starboard or right side float. Essentially, what was sealing this thing together was coming apart, and he had no way to repair it, so it just got worse and worse. By this time, 2 more contestants had dropped out of the race. That means that there were only 4 contestants left: Robin, Nigel, Bernard, and Bernard's mustache, obviously. No, Donald. So there's a rough time right now, December-ish, late December, for the final four. They're spending Christmas at sea, and they are alone. Some of them have been at sea at this point by themselves for almost half a year. And that's a form of loneliness and anxiety about your survival that very few people will ever know. And as for Donald, he had to worry about how long his ship could last in the open seas. It took 4 months to construct the ship. How long could this ship last? How long would those problems be fixable?
All right.
By March, that answer had become clear. That answer was March.
Oh, okay.
Picture him on the boat, which is...
He was out there a long time.
Yeah, this is like October 31st to around March 6th. So 4 months. He had been out there for 4 months. Picture this boat. It's an absolute mess, floating in the open sea. Then have white letters in all caps appear all over that saying March. And in the distance have the horizon revealing land. Because on March 6th, 1969... Donald sailed the Electron to the shallows of Rio Salado, Argentina. He allowed the ship to become grounded by keeping it in the same spot while the tide receded. And once it was grounded, he snuck into town, for sure on tiptoes, because it's some sneaky-ass shit. And as he moved around, you can be sure that sound like bump, 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 bump was going on from like the cartoons.
Yeah.
When the bad guys tiptoe around. That was happening in the background. He gathered supplies for repair and basic survival. Then he headed back to the Electron. He repaired the hull.
He's such a cheater.
He is. He's a fucking cheater. He repaired the hull as best as he could with what he was able to acquire. He knew that there would be suspicion about his fake log and his boat surviving, but he was convinced he'd be okay because he was coming in last. Even with the finish, last place would be ignored. First, even second place, people would be scrutinizing them for authentication, but if you come in last place, no one would care. And he could work with last place. So the tide began to come in, and the boat sailed away from Argentina, having never been spotted. If not for the detailed account he kept of what actually happened, so just in case...
He had the real log, and then he had
the fake
log. Oh, my F.
We would likely never know what had transpired to get this boat repaired, but he documented it. He then returned to the South Atlantic to wait. And as you can guess, the sea was not kind. It beat his ass. And the other thing that was not kind was Donald's own mind. And as you can probably guess, complete isolation from not just people, but land and society in general was wearing on all the contestants, but especially Donald. The rest of them were sailing with a purpose. He was just meandering, just waiting, and lying the whole time. And his conscience tormented him. His anxiety was sky high, as he might end up shipwrecked and dead anyways. And then something happened. Something great happened. About a month later, Robin Knox Johnston, the first of the friends to set sail on June 14th, Lee's birthday, had returned home. He made it around the world and returned home on April 22nd, 1969. Robin had completed his journey in 312 days. He showed up to people just losing their shit at the dock, like heroes welcome. The boat almost sank from the weight of all the panties that were getting thrown on the deck from all the groupies.
Really?
Or dock bunnies.
Panties. I was like, pennies. What?
No, not pennies. Panties. He was given the
Did you
golden...
call them dock bunnies?
Yeah.
Oh my god. So Adam just yesterday was like, not every sport has a bunny. Because I asked him,
you don't have to call every groupie a bunny. They're not guitar bunnies. And they're not football bunnies.
Well, because there's buckle bunnies, there's puck bunnies. We just watched an episode.
Those are both Canadian terms, I swear to God.
We just watched an episode of Bones where this basketball kid was like, oh yeah, bee bunnies.
Fuck you, Bones. I hate that show now. I really was liking that show until that line came out of that guy's mouth. All right, we're going to get back into this. So Robin was given the Golden Globe trophy for being the first to finish. No matter what, they weren't going to take this trophy from him. It meant he was the one that got back first. But the prize money would not be distributed. There were still 3 folks out there, Nigel, Donald, and Bernard. And if any of them could finish faster than him, they would have technically won and they would receive the prize. And Donald just needed for the other 2, Nigel and Bernard, to make it home. The next to come around the bend was Bernard. He was the second of the group to leave. He was the second to make his approach. He passed Cape Horn, which is the tip of South America, and on the pace he was setting when he got there, he had reached the Cape quicker than Robin had. He was on pace, at least up until then, to be the fastest. All he had to do was turn left. And instead, folks that watched him pass the Cape saw something peculiar. I want you to imagine yourself on a ship just off the tip of Cape Horn, seeing this guy sailing by, like shielding your eyes from the sun with your hands and squinting to see him, and you see him grab something and rear it back, like something stretchy attached to something stationary. He's not throwing something, he's just moving one arm really far back and keeping one stationary. And then what he was doing launched something into the air, and that something caught like the glint of the sun's light. He had shot a tin can into the sea, fired by a slingshot he had on board.
What?
Side note, this is 100% true. This isn't me making a scene for you. This is exactly what happened. The passing ship sent sailors to retrieve the tin can. Inside was a message written on a piece of paper that I seriously debated about whether or not I was going to make this a joke about your car warranty. But it's so cool, I decided to skip the joke. The message read, quote, "I am continuing nonstop because I am happy at sea and perhaps because I want to save my soul." Bernard had decided that he, as a person, rejected the commercialization of sailing around the world. He wrote this eloquent message to let everyone know, in the nicest way possible, that they could eat shit. He never turned left. He just kept on sailing around in the Southern Sea. He passed South Africa after he crossed the Atlantic again. He passed Australia. He sailed to Tahiti, which is 5,000 miles east of Australia. So basically, this guy sailed around the world faster than Robin did. Then he just decided to keep going rather than go back to England and went almost 2/3 of the rest of the way around the world again, just cause. Just cause that's what he liked to do.
And he just hung out in Tahiti. He's like, I'm good.
He went to Tahiti and he met his wife.
Oh, that's so romantic.
Or his wife met him there. It's hard to distinguish, but he was just like, I don't give a shit about this contest. I love sailing and my wife. And that's what he decided to do. Bernard Moitessier is actually a total badass. And there's so much written about him. I made him my twirly mustached bad guy for this. He's fucking awesome. His ship, the Joshua, is like a legendary ship that's still out there. Like, there's books written about when it finally sank. So, he's out of the race. This presented a serious problem for Donald, our main character. There was only one other person left in the race besides himself. His mind tormented him as he waited for Nigel Tetley to make his way along home. But you have to remember, for this to work, Donald is reporting false coordinates the whole time. And after calculating how long he should wait out at sea, Donald finally realized he needed to begin returning home in May of 1969. He had faked the part of sailing around the world, but at some point he did need to head home. But he couldn't come in second place. And he didn't want to accidentally win. So he would have to report fake coordinates that would be along the route where he should be heading back up the Atlantic that he should be taking, even though he was hiding out. And here's the thing. Aside from people dropping out of the race or making it home, you didn't really get a lot of updates to know where anyone was. You'd get reports here and there, but it's not like you had a tracker or a radar that would let you know where your fellow contestants were, and there's only one left at this point. And he knew that Nigel was making his final approach, so he had to do the same thing. It's like Hunger Games. Like, all you hear is the cannons to let you know when those other kids are dead. And then the announcement at the end of the day. So I guess it's not exactly like Hunger Games, but you get what I'm fucking saying here.
That escalated so quickly.
So he reported his coordinates, and he waited to hear where Nigel was as the days went on. And he thought that he would figure out a way where he could come in third. Nigel still had a shot at being the fastest, and he very possibly could take the prize money. So to Nigel, he's going for the win. But here's the thing. Nigel found out the coordinates of where Donald was first, based off of what Donald had reported. And when Nigel was told of the coordinates that Donald supposedly was at, his fake bullshit coordinates that had been sent in, those fake coordinates just so happened to be right behind him. So all of a sudden to Nigel, he is right on his tail, and he needs to step it the fuck up and get there. Because he's realizing he could win this prize money, and then he hears his friend is right behind him. After sailing around the world for almost 300 days, this guy is like, I could lose? So he's like, I'm going to do this. He did what most of us would do in that situation. He had just invested all this time sailing around the world, all this danger. A storm kicked up. And he said, fuck that. And he sailed through the storm. He decided he was going to go for as long as he could until he finally had to batten down the hatches and take shelter. And he left his boat in a state that it would drift with the wind so he could gain some ground while he hid from the weather. And on May 20th, during this storm, Nigel Tetley heard horrific noises coming from outside his boat, the Victress. He listened as the storm absolutely eviscerated his boat. The noise became so bad, he had to leave the safety of his shelter to assess the damage, and when he did, he realized the storm had ripped off the port hull, the float, entirely. So taking that canoe that was basically mounted to his main hull, left holes in his main hull. It was completely unrepairable. His journey had come to an abrupt end. He radioed for help, and 3 minutes later, his ship was gone. He had just enough time to say Mayday, inflate his life raft, and get in it. He was rescued the next day. He was 7 days away from returning home.
So Donald fucked him over.
And he would have won, based off of the pace he was setting. He was devastated, but the only person who took this harder than Nigel was Donald. He knew he had almost cost Nigel his life. He knew he had cost him his boat. And he knew he had cost him the victory that he truly deserved. And in addition, the fake pace that he had set meant that now that Nigel was out of the race, he was going to finish first.
Oh, God.
Everyone's expecting Donald to show up, and now Donald is supposed to win. And he would be found out. Everyone would know he was a fraud. And left alone in the ocean with this guilt, he slowly began to descend into madness. He chronicled his journey into the darkness with a, not even that mad, I mean madness. God. He chronicled his journey into the darkness, writing a 25,000-word document about all sorts of things: life, God, gods, space-time, time travel, ascension of the human form, guilt, and death. He even referred to death as, quote, the mercy, capitalized, as if it were like an entity. He calculated how much longer he had left on Earth before he, quote, defeated time. He sent his last radio transmission on June 29th, over a month after Nigel sunk his ship, and nearly a month after he was scheduled to arrive home, and people were starting to realize something was very, very wrong. He wrote a confession for what he had done, dated July 1st. He timed it 10:29 British Standard Time when he began writing it. The last line of his letter was, quote, "It is finished. It is finished. It is the mercy." It is the mercy was in all caps. From what folks can tell after that,
he was gone.
He took his fake logbook and he went over the edge of the Electron. The actual logbook, his 25,000-word chronicling of insanity, and the rest of his boat just continued to sail on without him, bobbing through the Atlantic Ocean as it had done so for over the last year, except now it was empty. He was never seen from again. Or heard from.
I was going to say seen and heard from.
He was never seen and heard from again. Until 9 days later. And now you can do the doodle-doo, 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 and bring this back to that sailor looking over this massive document, who at this point had to be shaking his head, because whoever it was that found this boat definitely found these things looking for this log, and found this just fucking bizarre manuscript.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't know what he found, but all he knew was that it was bizarre. The boat was found literally like smack dab in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. So he had just like gotten even further away from home once this had all kicked off. Everyone was shocked when they found the boat. Like, absolutely shocked. If you just look up this race, it talks about how it was absolutely marred by the fact that one of the contestants committed suicide. It was towed to Jamaica, where it was eventually sold at auction to try and recoup some of the money that was lost on the adventure. Robin Knox Johnston was declared the winner. He was the only one to finish the race. He was given the £5,000 prize. Robin donated the money to Donald Crowhurst's family.
Aww.
They were destitute while he was gone, while Donald was gone, they had to go onto welfare because they couldn't even afford to live at that point.
Wow.
So he gave them the prize money. Nigel Tetley was forever changed by the race. Once the whole story was pieced together and everyone knew what happened and everyone knew that he sincerely and truly got fucked out of the prize, they decided that the only thing that was fair to do was to give him a consolation prize of £1,000.
It's pretty good.
It's nothing to turn your nose up at. That's £14,085 today, or $18,293 in today's money. He built another boat and attempted to sail it again around the world to set the record time, but he couldn't get sponsorship worked out to get it fitted and to get everything he needed. And this is a really sad and weird postscript to this story, is that Nigel wound up writing a book that sold very, very poorly. Bernard also wrote a book that sold very well. He wound up getting very depressed over the fact that he could never seem to stop failing, and all of that came to a head in February of 1972, or so it seemed. And this is where it gets super weird. Nigel went missing for 3 days before his body was discovered in the woods. When he was found, it was ruled a suicide. There was a request that it be further investigated. When I researched the request, this is what's weird. If you Google Nigel Tetley cause of death, it actually pops up on Google saying suicide. It just has it like in one of those answer boxes they have. It actually is not ruled a suicide. It's left open. It's basically ruled unsolved. He had apparently been discovered wearing lingerie with his hands bound.
What?
And they believed his death is the result of, quote, masochistic sexual activity, and they couldn't find any evidence that he self-inflicted or intended for himself to die. So, while this end and his end may be sad, it cannot be said that Nigel did not continue to live an adventurous life, because clearly that's what he was into. As for the ship that started our story, the Teignmouth Electron, it still exists. It is located on one of the smaller Cayman Islands in the Caribbean. It is not in sailing shape anymore, and because it is famous in certain circles, and it's shocking because I've never heard this story before, it's had parts stolen off of it, including anything that has its name has basically been cut out of it. But it's still there for the most part, all by its lonesome in the middle of nowhere. And that, my spooky friends, is the tale of the Teignmouth Electron, the most famous ghost ship I never knew existed.
I feel like it's not necessarily a ghost ship as much as like this is just like a ship tale. There has to be like some story about boats that's not a ghost ship.
I mean, it was a ghost ship when they found it. They didn't know why it was empty. They didn't know what happened to anyone. And still to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to Donald. All they have to go on is the actual log, the fact that he lied through his teeth for almost a year, and this 25,000-page manuscript of batshit crazy. Like some of the most bizarre things you could ever read. And I can't find it published anywhere. I can just find excerpts from it where he just says bizarre stuff about like time travel and ascending the human form, and like it's so weird, man. Like he snapped. Like his brain just melted down.
That's so insane, dude.
It's just this bizarre tale of one person descending to madness through deception.
Yeah.
Like, and his intentions were like, I want to find a way to make money so I can support my family.
Yeah.
Because he knew how bad off his family was. So, yeah. That is the tale of the Teignmouth Electron.
Really intense.
It is. And it's just, what's so crazy is I've never heard this anywhere. I didn't know this race around the world existed for boats. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was all this controversy. Two of the people, technically, like, not two, but like two of the people wound up dying afterwards, and one of them died during it. Like, it's just absolutely bizarre. It's like a ghost ship that was just discovered, and people are like, do you know what this is? Like, that missing dude who's been gone for like a month and a half, who was supposed to win that race, like, this is his boat.
It's like a cursed boat race.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. Like, so many people wrecked their ship, so many people turned in and were just like, I can't do it. And then the one guy who probably could have and would have won basically sailed past the point where everyone saw him with like double middle finger guns, like, fuck everyone, I do what I want, and he just kept going. And that boat lasted him for like another 20 years.
Wow.
He sailed it everywhere. So there's a lot of cool stuff to be taken from this story, but yeah, there's a lot of crazy, bizarre, unexplained stuff as well. So
I bet a lot happened below deck.
Wow. I had a below deck reference and I pulled it out of respect to the story. So glad you could inject one in there right at the end. I really hope you guys enjoy that. I know it's not the spookiest thing I've ever told, but it's sincerely one of the most interesting stories I've ever found. So let me know if you do. If you didn't like it, you don't have to say anything. But yeah, I sincerely hope you enjoyed that.
Cool.
So, yeah, that's just about everything that we have for episode 113. I want to remind everyone, if you have a story you would like to share with us, it doesn't have to be boating or dog boy related, but you can email storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to facebook.com/scaryish podcast and message us there. You can also join the Spooky Friends group, which is our Facebook group, if you'd like to just communicate with us or the community, or share memes, or even talk about stuff that's happened to you. All that stuff goes on over there. You can go to Scaryish.com and click on Contact Us and send us your story that way. That's very helpful if you do not have social media or an email address. If you do have other social medias, we have Twitter @ScarishPod and Instagram @ScarishPodcast, and those are the ways that you can reach out to us. If you go to our website, Scaryish.com, you can find our Discord link. Just scroll down, and on the right-hand side, you see links to all of our social medias. If you click the Discord one, it takes you directly into our server, and you can just hang out in there with us. We have a lot of really fun channels.
Yeah.
I seriously scroll through that suggestion channel all the time when I'm struggling for a topic, and it really, really helps. So feel free to go in there and give us your suggestions. A weird noise just came out of my throat.
It's like a demon.
It was a demon. It was a burp that I internalized, and it just moved around in there. So, Robin, for folks who want to donate to us monetarily, how can they do so?
If you folks want to be one of our patrons, just like Michael and Connor, head on over to patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are monthly donations. We have a whole bunch of different tiers. Check them out. It's great. And then we have one-time donations at ko-fi.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are one-time donations. All those donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup. I also have those hard enamel pins still available on our Etsy. So if you guys want to go check out our store, my Etsy store, you can go to, our Facebook, Instagram. There's links all over the place. You can go to our website, Scaryish.com. There's a link to my Etsy store all the way at the bottom. And just click on my little animated face there, and it'll take you there. There's enamel pins, there's stickers, there's coasters, there's a whole bunch of different Scaryish stuff there. So, yeah.
Indeed. Go buy up that Scaryish merch. It really does help us out. So,
yeah.
We appreciate all your support. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the topic. I was a little bit hesitatent when I was doing the research, but I thought it was so damn interesting and absolutely bizarre that it really did kind of fit what we do. So
it's a little bit scary-ish.
Little bit scary-ish. So, yeah, that's everything we have for episode 113. So, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.